Hey, everybody, welcome to Ronline Report. Today, we have a very, very special guest. She is the greatest female bodybuilder on earth right now. She is the current and reigning three-time MS Olympia champion, current and reigning three-time Wings of Strength Rising Phoenix champion. Please welcome Andrea Shaw. How are you, Andrea?
Hey, hello. I am amazing. Still riding high.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long. It's only been a couple weeks. But man, I didn't know a whole lot about you, but once I started looking into your story, wow, you got a great backstory. This is like a movie. So
it's been a journey, Ron, that's for sure.
So I want to start by letting people know how crazy it is that there's only been 37 MS Olympia contests ever, I believe, since it started, because they missed a few years. And out of those 37, 21 wins came from the state of Detroit, state of Michigan.
Yes.
That's insane. Yeah.
There's something here. There's something special here.
Linda Murray, 8 wins. Iris Kyle, 10 wins. And you, Andrea, 3 so far. I'm very sure you're going to keep getting more. I don't think you're done.
So, not at all.
So yeah, let's get into how you started in all this. You came from Detroit and you started out young kid, gymnastics, cheerleading. Cheerleading, that's interesting because I know Kim Chizevsky, she was a 3-time winner. She was a cheerleader. And Linda Murray was a USF. She went collegiate and then she was a cheerleader for USFL. So
she was. Yeah, we have another little Michigan notable. Although she's not a female bodybuilder, she was in figure. Nicole Wilkins is from Michigan.
Oh wow!
And she won 4 times for a figure.
Yeah, I looked it up. I want to see how many people live in Michigan because it's a huge state. I wondered. I mean, but it's 10 million people out of 340 in the USA. So not a bad track record.
Not at all.
So let's see. Your mom was a personal trainer and a nurse. Is that right?
Yeah. My mom still is employed as a nurse. But yes, when I got back from, I was with my dad in Kansas and we lived on a farm. And when I got back, my mom had this whole new life. She picked me up and she's like, all right, we are going to the gym. This is what you're going to be doing after school. And my grandfather at that time, he was getting older and up in age. So he wasn't able to watch me as much. So my mom's like, you're going to the gym. Wow. And, at 12, 13 years old, I'm just tinkering around and, I just started talking to people. And next thing I know, I'm kind of like into the mix and I'm working out and I'm doing machines. And yeah, it's like, Jim kind of was the babysitter. So I tell people that's kind of how it started.
Was it always, you went to the famous Powerhouse, I think.
Yes.
Powerhouse Centerline. Was that the biggest, was that the first one or the most famous one?
It was the second famous one when it comes to Michigan. The first notable one is in Highland Park.
Okay.
So Will and Norm Dabish established that one, and that was the first one in the country.
Okay. I have to ask, what was your mom built like? Did she have a muscular build at all?
Oh yeah, and she had aspirations to compete, but things just kind of she pursued her education to make sure that I was good instead of competing. So now she gets to live kind of vicariously through me.
Wow. So yeah, quite a story. I guess you stopped training for a little while. You put on some weight, and she got you back. She made sure you got back into training with a friend of hers who was a competitor, a female bodybuilder.
Well, so my mom had a trainer, and this trainer was a female bodybuilder. And when I kind of was, because you know how it is when you're young, you go, then you don't go, and then you're kind of finding your way. You want to party, you want to stay up all night, but you still want to go to the gym. And it was just a hit and miss. But I finally got to the point where I said, okay, I need to be consistent. And that's when she set me up with her trainer. And her trainer, we had some differences of opinion. She said that she didn't think I had the heart to stick with it. She said that to my mom. And yeah, all it takes is one. All it takes is one person. And I keep in touch with her from time to time. I've seen her because she's local. But she definitely lit a fire underneath me. And I wanted to make sure that I proved her wrong.
Yeah, you must have gone back to her one time after you'd been winning all these shows, and she must have been like, I was wrong, Andrea. I'm sorry.
No, not that quite. But I did see her actually before I went pro. She came because we put on we host a few posing clinics here locally, and she had a client in the posing clinic, and we spoke briefly, but she congratulated me for the successes I had up until that time. But yeah, I definitely should say a big thank you to her at this point.
Okay. So apparently you didn't want to be a bodybuilder, you want to be a fashion model, but I guess 5'5.5", that's not tall enough. How tall you got to be?
Well, I'm 5'6", and yeah, I mean, you got to be cracking 5'8", 5'7". I mean, I think at least. I mean, the taller the better when you're looking at fashion, and runway.
I
But
guess, yeah.
yeah, you remember Robert Kennedy though?
Of
Oxygen
course.
Magazine, Muscle
Yeah.
Mag. Yeah, he was the kickoff to my competition career because I mean, I was shocked. I sent him an email. And he emailed me back and I said, how are you getting the young ladies on the cover? I enjoy the magazine. I've been a faithful subscriber. And he emailed me back and he said, well, we're actually at many of the local shows and we like to see, who's there, who's competing. And if we like their look, we approach them and we talk to them about working with us.
Wow.
And so I said, okay, well, sounds like I'm doing a show.
So were you ever in Oxygen before you started competing or when you started
No,
competing?
no, but some of my favorites, my call them items, but they were. So I still have a lot of my collection from Oxygen Magazine. So
Right on.
yeah,
So let's see. So you did put things on hold with the gym for a while to go get your degree in, where did I write it down? I'm like halfway in the dark here. It's hard to read. You got your degree in exercise and sports science at
I
Wayne
did.
State University.
I
And
did.
put a little weight on, like a lot of college kids do. And
Oh yeah, freshman 15 turned into like freshman 20, 25-ish.
and so is that what really got you serious into it again? Was after seeing the weight gain from college?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like what I was looking at in the mirror, so I decided, you know what? Okay, I have enough knowledge at this point to really start taking it serious and being consistent. And that's when I would say my habits started to become, solidified with, meal prepping, going to bed, making sure I got enough sleep, and really managing my schedule in a much more responsible way.
Yeah. So
No more parties, no more drinking.
that's the same story. Bump said he quit all his college partying to become a bodybuilder. So you guys both made good decisions.
Yeah.
So when you started competing, there was no physique yet. That division had not been created, but you were attracted to the look of figure, and that's where you started out. So you actually did okay. You didn't light the world on fire in figure, but you did okay, right?
Yeah, I did. Okay, I always placed within the top 5, which I thought, locally I was working with something. But I mean, Ron, I was starving. I was at my second show. I came in 4th. I mean, first show is just, you just got to get your feet wet. And I got ready for that show within 4 weeks. So, I mean, that told me that I was working with something. But by the time I got ready for the second show, I hired a dietitian. And I mean, he had me starving. I was eating 2 ounces of tuna, half an orange for breakfast with 6 egg whites. And that was my same thing for dinner, 1 cup of lettuce. And I'm doing cardio 3 times a day. And I still got on stage at 140 pounds, like all quads. It was like, okay, no, this is not going to work. I mean, I literally starved myself and I knew it was like, I'm not a small girl and I'm not ever going to be that.
So, I mean, but you still had very few options. All you had was women's bodybuilding. I think that might have been the few years where women's bodybuilding was pretty much gone.
And I said, well, I take 8 years off and, just keep training at that point, learning the craft. So that was time well spent, I'd say. But when women's physique came around, I had developed my physique to the point where I said, okay, I can get on stage and actually compete and win at this point with this much development. So again, started locally, 2016. Okay. Did 1 show, came in 4th, but the legs were still lagging a little bit. I said, okay, I need to hire a coach, like a real coach.
Yeah. Have you been with the same coach for a long time, or have you had a couple different coaches?
No, I've been with John Simmons for since 2018, consistently. I've always been around like John. Like I've known John since I was about 24.
Yeah.
And he would train me, but then I would like get off into the partying and then, hanging out. And then I'd be like, oh, 6 months later, hey, can you train me? And he's always like been there. But I decided to finally get serious once I hit 2018. And I said, you know what, I really want to get this pro card. I think I've got, a full-time job. I can afford it. And, things were just really stable with me at that time. So that's what we did. We did 5 shows total that year. And then I got my pro card at Nationals.
That's right. And then that was, you didn't last long in pro figure. I mean, it didn't take you long to figure out that wasn't the show. Was it only 1 pro show you did as figure? The Toronto Pro?
I did 1 pro show, women's physique, Toronto Pro.
Women's figure.
Toronto Pro.
And I guess you had a bunch of people tell you there, including Linda Murray, Margie Marvelous, Alina Popa, and Irene Anderson. They all told you got too much muscle. You should try women's bodybuilding. And
yeah. And a few judges and Bob Ciccarillo, we're on the stage and Bob's like, he sent the mic down to the head judge, and Bob's like, "Hey man, you gotta get out of women's physique." He's like, "Come on, I'm telling you." And I'm like, "I get it, Bob. I got it. I'm in the second call out, Bob. I got it."
So were you like really starving for women's physique, like not letting your body grow?
Yeah. I mean, I was doing a lot more cardio, heavy on the fat burners to try to get as lean as I could. And I knew at a certain point, because I knew there was nothing wrong with my physique when I did that show. I was just a bit unsure if I was really going to be able to do women's bodybuilding and be competitive. Because again, my heart's desire was not to go into women's bodybuilding, but if that was where I was going to fit, then I was willing to go. I mean, I had already done that once with figure, right? And then moving into women's physique. So yeah, Linda and I discussed me moving into the very next show, which would have been at that point the Chicago Pro.
Yeah, we got
not even a full month later.
Second place in your first women's bodybuilding show. So I think right there you knew. But I'm curious, why did you not think you were big enough for women's bodybuilding? Were you like just didn't have the confidence for it yet?
I both. I didn't have the confidence for it, and then there was just a lot of I was unsure. I was just unsure because I'm like, okay, if they took it away from the Olympia, you know, what is going to be the future of the sport? So yeah, that kind of played, because my goal was always to get to the Olympia. And women's physique kind of gave me the avenue to do that. But of course, at that time, I didn't have any idea that, Wings of Strength was kind of, in negotiations. So I just had to kind of follow the course. And at that point, as long as I knew I could compete and actually win, then I was okay with making the move at that point.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Oh yeah, it was 2014 to 2019. There were no Ms. Olympias held in those years.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
So you did one more show that year, took 7th place to Rising Phoenix.
Yeah.
And you have not been beaten since then. You've been undefeated since then. Wow.
Yeah.
In fact,
I finally got a good feel for women's bodybuilding. It took me a while to really fill in my physique a little bit more, because I had been so used to dieting down and starving down so hard. Even my posing was a little bit softer. It wasn't as bold as it is like with women's bodybuilding, because Margie says pose big. So when she kind of told me that, I said, okay, I think I can master that. But then when I hired Sid Gillen, I was like, you know what, I don't mind posing big, but you got to make sure that I can still bring out a lot of the femininity that I is unique to me. Yeah. And yeah, we've done a good job, I think, of putting that on the stage.
Yeah, I mean, you've done an excellent job of maintaining a very, very feminine look, and your voice, everything. Yeah. It's a wonderful. I'm hoping this brings more people to sport, because Jake Wood's done an incredible job of resurrecting women's bodybuilding. Literally, it was gone. It was gone. Yeah. And he brought it back.
Yeah. And I'm actively recruiting ladies. And some people are like, are you crazy? Why are you recruiting people to be on stage with you? And I'm like, because I see the potential. And I personally think that as a true ambassador, if you do love competing, if you do what you're supposed to do, you shouldn't have a problem with, reaching out and telling somebody, hey, you know what? You don't look like you're doing very well in this division. You should consider this. And here are the reasons why. And most of the girls have been really, really receptive. So yeah, we've got some newcomers even this year. Angela Yao, she came in second.
She was great.
I talked to her because she lives in Ohio. So we've got some mutual friends in common. And when I saw her, I said, you probably are going to be moving into women's bodybuilding soon, because as a power lifter and with what I see on you now for density, you're not going to be in women's physique long. And sure enough, people didn't see her coming. So, I kind of knew. I knew.
What did she was it Tampa, or I saw the other show she won earlier?
Chicago Pro.
Chicago, yeah, dominant. It was just dominant. But speaking of dominant, I'm curious, your 6 past wins, 3 Olympias, 3 Wings of Strength, Rising Phoenix, have they all been perfect scores?
Yes.
So there you go. So, people would say, well, it's okay, Andrea, you can get more winning, because nobody's really close to you anyway. No disrespect. These women are incredible, but you're just, you've been winning just, I don't want to say easily. You work very, very hard to do it. But I remember the first time you won the Olympia, someone asked both me and Giles, who's with MD, he's over in the UK.
Love Giles.
who was like the most dominant winner of the entire weekend? 10 divisions. We didn't even hesitate. Andrea Shaw.
He did an article on that. I got that magazine. I got that one.
Yeah. So
thank you guys.
So here's some good stuff about Jake. Now, Jake and the Wings of Strength, he's done an amazing job with the promotions. And this Rising Phoenix thing you won 3 times. I'm curious, what's the prize money for that versus the Olympia?
It's actually the same amount of prize money, so it's 50,000.
Okay.
But the cool factor is that you get the car or the vehicle. It's typically an American muscle car. In this case, it was American muscle truck.
Well, yeah. Let's run down the three vehicles that you've won, because there's a lot of car nuts out there that would love to hear.
There are. Oh
These
my
are not
gosh!
the
And I wasn't a
regular. These are
car
not the
person until
regular.
now.
Jake tricks these things out. These are not like the base model. So
Yeah,
tell
no,
me
the
about it.
best. They are the best of the best. So, my first year, I won a ZL1 Camaro,
Ooh, nice.
which beautiful, beautiful car. I love that car.
Yeah.
Then the second year, so last year, I ended up, well, year before last, I won a Corvette, a C8 Corvette Stingray,
No.
and that's my pride and joy there so
Wow.
far. And then this past year, I won a Chevy Silverado High Country.
Boy.
Yeah.
So do you have all these cars?
I sold the Camaro.
Okay. I mean, that's
I
fair.
didn't want to, but I only have a 2-car garage and my driveway is only so long.
I mean, I wouldn't have held it against you if you sold all of them. I remember Cutler won 3 Hummers in a row at the Arnold Classic back in the day. He sold all 3 of them. He didn't keep even one of them. So,
Yeah. So that means, I keep them for the first year. But then as I, God willing, continue to win, I'll definitely start to sell off some because, you enjoy them, but in the long run, they're assets. They're marketing for, obviously the company and the companies, because this year they did a little more marketing for a few other sponsors that were a part of the show, and then you sell it. You sell it and you move on. You just move on to the next thing.
Well, right now you're in a good spot. You're still in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
So that Corvette is going to be useless when it snows. I'm sure you've already figured that out. But that
Yep.
Silverado, yeah. That's when you bust out the truck.
You read my mind. I said, oh, this is perfect because who needs to shovel snow when you can drive over it?
Yeah, is it like lifted way up off the ground and everything?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
You got to get a running start to get in there, man. It's a 2,500, so it's a big truck.
Boy, I'd need a step ladder to get in that thing.
Yes. Alan Sizemore promised he would hook me up. So, Alan, I'm waiting on you.
Okay. Now, a big thing that happened, I think, fairly recently is you signing with Mutant, becoming a Mutant Nation athlete. I don't know how long you've been with them, but tell me how it came about.
This marks 1 year. So I actually got a call from Sean Ray, and he's like, you know what? I think that at this point, with this resurgence of women's bodybuilding, you got a lot of muscle and you got a good look. He's like, I think we should have you talk to the folks over here at Mutant. And once I got a chance to talk to Ian and Big Jim, I mean, these guys are amazing. They are they're more of a family than they are a company, right? We conduct business, we do business, but everybody has a certain, like, the common theme of, we got to support the family. And they put together these awesome trips for us. We go to the Mutant Mansion, and now we've got Sean Clarita, because Sean's been looking to get it signed with them. And I feel like, now it's the right time. And once I met Jim, I just wanted to work that much more for Jim because he's just a humble guy, solid guy, very grounded. And he believes in what we do when it comes to these products. And, having taken them, A+.
Yeah, 2 Olympia champs. Am I missing any? Was there other Olympia champs?
Nope, we're the only 2 so far.
That's plenty. Where's this Mutant Mansion? Now you got me curious about the Mutant Mansion.
The one we went to most recently was in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So I've made 3 trips to Vegas this year.
Man. Now, other big news, you're becoming a contest promoter. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So this was something that it's been on my list of things that I wanted to accomplish because, everyone has a certain amount of time where, you're on stage, but then you have to think about at a certain point, you're not going to be competing, right? But if you love the sport, it's a matter of sitting down and asking yourself, okay, in what ways do I want to contribute to, the, people that are coming along? And so I mentioned to my posing coach, Sid Gillen, and to my prep coach, John Simmons, hey, I'm very interested in, putting on my own show. So John and Linda were so gracious. They let me kind of hang out behind the scenes, help them out with some of the details with their show. There's so much that goes into a show. Competitors have no idea. They show up on show day, but they have no idea how much really goes into a show. So having done that with them for the last few years, I said, okay, you know what? If it can happen, I would love to do it. And Sid Gillen And then Whitney Jones and I decided that we would put on our show in Arizona. So we're looking at Arizona, probably along about just outside of Phoenix. And we're going to do the women's physique, women's bodybuilding, and figure categories. We do know that, a lot of people were disappointed that it was removed from the Arnold, but we've given you guys an avenue to come and compete. And every promoter, we have nothing against Arnold. Every promoter has their own, right to promote whatever they want or host whichever, divisions they want. But this is something that's near and dear to us. And then we'll have the amateurs. Everyone who's an amateur is welcome. So all divisions, both male and female. I'm super excited. So this is the Triple O Dynasty, the first kind of show of its kind where we have current Olympia champions. Obviously, Whitney's retired now, but come together and actually put on a show that hosts IFBB as well as NPC athletes.
Yeah, when you told me you were going to start, you're going to have your first show, I thought, well, she'll do some regional thing, no, you're going all out. You're doing a pro show for your first show. Wow, ambitious. But you'll do a great job.
Very. And Jim Mannion's already on camera. I love you, Jim. Hey, Jim. He's like, okay, when you retire, you're going to be judging too. So get ready.
Yeah, so on that note, would you want to be a judge?
I test judged at the Masters Nationals last year. Yeah. I would. Again, I think that after you've been on stage as many times as I have, there is a certain amount of expertise that you get, and talking with judges, getting feedback, going to shows, because I go to a lot of shows throughout the year. And it's something that, again, I can contribute to the sport, where I can help competitors say, okay, you know what, this is why you didn't place here. You need to work on these things. And if they take it and they actually utilize the advice, then, we'll see about them potentially becoming, Olympia worthy. So yeah, I think between judging and being involved in show promoting, because I would like to get one more show, Tyler. Okay. But soon another Pro-Am show. Specifically maybe something here in Michigan. So, the Indy Pro is no longer going to be offered. So, again, want to give some people the opportunity to stamp that ticket to the O.
Hey, there was a Detroit Pro years ago. Probably like 25 years ago. I bet John competed in it.
John actually held one. He the last pro show that was a big show. We have one here, but I believe it's just bikini. But yeah, we want to have some inclusion of more categories, hopefully some men categories and women's categories.
Forgive me for jumping around, but I realize with Mutant, I'm not that familiar with the line. So you've been using it for a year now. What are your favorite Mutant products?
Oh man, I love the recovery products. The recovery products for me are where it's at. I tend to work out a lot when it comes to being in prep. So as much recovery as I can get, that's the best for me. So they actually offer essential amino acids and branch chain amino acids, as well as glutamine. So the glutamine and it's just pure glutamine. Their products to me are just next level. I can definitely always see the difference between, how quickly I can recover after taking their products. So I try to make sure I stay on top of it. When I'm traveling, it's a little more challenging because I have to check my powders, but but when you're talking about working out twice a day, sometimes for upwards of an hour and a half a day, and sometimes that's just lifts, and that doesn't include cardio. Inflammation could be something that you want to make sure that you ward off as quickly as possible. And their products definitely have played a role in helping me to do that.
So yeah, 2 workouts a day, and they might have to be cardio. Are you a coffee person or a pre-workout person?
I'm more of like a green tea person.
Okay, I didn't even give you that option.
Yeah. Over the years, I used to be more of a pre-workout person, and Mutant has an excellent pre-workout. But again, sometimes I think the green tea, I like a smoother ride. And I like some of the antioxidant benefits that I get from the green tea. So yeah, I used to be a coffee person, but not so much anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, between All In by Mutant and the green tea, I'm usually at a good spot.
Okay. So yeah, as an ambassador now, you're supposedly the person who needs to get women's bodybuilding more popular. It's part of your duties. I do believe Olympia champions is not just a physique. I think you really should be an ambassador, a role model, and try to get the sport more popular and uplift. And I think with women's bodybuilding, it's a little more challenging because women have all these divisions more than anybody. There's bikini, fitness, figure, women's physique. Did I miss any? So that's 5 right there. Wellness. Okay, yeah, I knew I missed one. 6. Jeez.
Yeah, 6
because
total.
Brazilians are going to kill me. But so with all those divisions to choose from, women's bodybuilding, just like men's bodybuilding, it's the most difficult. It takes the longest to achieve that look. I think everybody works hard. Don't get me wrong. Don't get mad at me, girls. But if one division has very little muscle and very little definition, another one has a lot of muscle and a lot of definition. To me, that equates to more work. So just like with men's bodybuilding, it's harder to get men into bodybuilding now because physique is easier. It's quicker. They can get there quicker. Even classic, you don't need ungodly amounts of muscle to be in classic. Yeah. How do you convince women, or how do you promote women's bodybuilding so that these women don't get discouraged and say, I can't look like that. It's going to take too long.
Well, I have to ask them, go back to their why, right? Why did you start competing in the first place? There's something that you believe that you could do. So whether it takes a little bit longer or not, if you still believe that you started this journey with that in mind, then you shouldn't let that go. Don't be so quick to let that go. And as long as you do your best, then you're going to grow. That's going to be inevitable, but you have to make sure that you are, number one, stick to the plan. If you don't have a coach, you need a coach to walk you through that plan, right? Because I'm kind of surprised at how many girls self-coach, which God bless them. I cannot. I cannot. I've learned that lesson long ago because my thought process when it comes to doing things while I'm in prep is I want to do as much as I can, as hard as I can. I'm going to, and I still check in with both Sydney and John. And I ask them, okay, are we looking okay? Is there anything else I need to work on? Cause I'm that girl. I will go, like my first Miss Olympia, I was down at the gym doing cardio the night before. I got tan on. I wasn't doing a hard cut, but I wanted to do everything I could to make sure that I was as lean as possible and as dry as possible so that I got on the stage just, feeling like, okay, I did everything I possibly could. Again, a bit of an extreme case, but if you know that you've gotten into this to try to see where you can go, you got to be in it for the long game. You cannot be. And I mean, again, I tell people I took 8 years off. 8 years. Nobody wants to hear about that part though. You know what I mean? Where it was just getting up every day. And at that time I was going to the gym 7 days, no days off. Yeah. I mean, my workout partners, and my coach, I mean, they're Marines. So like, this is, it is what it is. And, you want to work out with people like that, then you got to get down with their program. And it was like, okay, nobody should be a week late. You need to get there. And that's kind of been something that I used to want to be in the military. So that's just been something that, I've always kind of kept with me. So it's very difficult for me to get that out of my head. So I guess to a fault, you know what I mean? I try to just encourage the girls, you got to dig in. Nothing's impossible, but you got to be willing to give it all you've got. You never know what can happen, but if you walk away, then you do know what happens. You don't get anything.
True. So I've never really heard anything about your training style. How would you describe it? Is it very heavy? Is it moderate weights, high volume, low volume? How would you describe it if you had to?
I would say it's probably a blend of all that. So I try to go in for as many reps as I can. And the goal is usually to start off with moderate and then try to move into heavy up until the time that I start prep. But once I start prep, then I have to back off of the heavy weight. I just can't. I don't have the calorie intake, to sustain the heavy weight safely, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, slowly backing off of my bench press. I mean, I can bench press pretty good with barbell at about 250. But
wow.
Again, I don't need to bench that heavy.
Wow.
When I'm trying to, refine things, right? If you're adding mass, then that's a different thing. But, I'll back down to 90 pounds for bench press and I'll go in for 20 reps, maybe 4 to 6 sets. And that's good, just a good pump into the muscle. And I don't need to be in the gym for, an hour and a half. I'm usually 45 minutes in and out. I'm moving on. Yeah. I try to make sure I'm efficient. And then I got into doing drop sets. So drop sets was another way that, we can try to exhaust the muscle, really drive that blood in there. And you don't have to use a heavy weight. You can use a moderate weight and or somewhat moderate to lightweight. But again, I'm repping out. So I go into the zone pretty good in prep. But when I'm not in prep, yeah, I can usually once the calories are sufficient, I can get into lifting some heavier weight and usually, really focus on building certain areas. So like this particular off season, I'm going to work on building my glutes up some more, refining my quads a little bit more, some hamstrings. So mostly lower body. I feel pretty confident with my upper body. But yeah, now it's just dialing in, that lower body just a little bit more for me to where I feel like I could be a little more satisfied. I don't know if we're ever satisfied, but a little more satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, normally I would say you don't need bigger legs, but your arms are so big. I mean, I'm going to take a wild guess. You tell me how far off. I bet at their biggest. So before you die it all down, I'm going to say 17 and a half.
Close, 18.
Yeah. 18. Wow.
18.
Good Lord.
18. And I still don't know how that happened because I don't train arms.
What?
I do not train arms. My coach hates it. He's like, you got to be kidding me.
Oh,
and I'm like, no. So my back lifts are heavy enough. And I mean, I get into like old school bodybuilding, T-bar rows with, different hand grip variations, one arms, that's just old school bodybuilding. And if you do it right, for me anyway, I don't have to train arms.
I don't think that's going to work for most people, but
True.
man, I've only heard that from a couple other people ever. Phil Heath didn't train his arms much at all.
Yeah.
I remember, you're not old enough. Mike Christian, do you know who that was?
No.
He was back in like the Lee Haney era. He didn't train his arms. They were enormous. So yeah. Wow. Imagine if you did train him like twice a week.
Oh my gosh, my arms would be huge. Like I still don't know when this happened, but oh yeah, they would be probably disproportionate if I actually trained them to the extent that some people do. But again, my chest lifts, my shoulder lifts, they're heavy enough where I don't have to work triceps. So
okay.
I will do them towards the end in prep just because I'm not lifting as heavy. So we'll get a little pump in them, but it's still not, I only do it if coach makes me do it.
Oh man, John. So here's a question I like to pose only to multiple Olympia winners like yourself. Was it harder to win the first time, or is it harder to defend your title as time went on?
I think it's harder to defend. I definitely think it's harder to defend. And Chris and I had a conversation about that once he regained his title in 2020. He's like, it's definitely more about keeping it than getting it. And yeah, I mean, I feel like you never know who's coming. This year was a perfect example. We had some new girls coming. I mean, obviously I knew some of the girls were coming because I've spoken with them, but yeah, you just have to really ask yourself, I think at the beginning of, the year, is this something you really want? Yeah. Why do you still want it? And what are you going to do to amplify, your efforts to keep it?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's where, you got to ask those, I call them tough questions, but maybe for some it's not tough. But when you have to actually search your own soul and figure out, okay, what else could I be doing to make sure that I don't lose it?
Yeah. Well, that being said, I mean, do you see any of these women as being very, very close that if you slip up, one or two of these women are going to get past and beat you?
I think if I let myself slip up, anybody could. Yeah. I mean, that's I think that's a given. And I think that anybody who is the champ, that's the number one thing to always be leery of, is being too relaxed, too chilled. Yeah. Too cocky. That's where, okay, soon as you start going down that road, you're bound to miss something because your attention is not where it needs to be. Your attention needs to be, okay, what are you going to do to keep it? And why do you want to keep it? Is it that important enough to you? And if not, then maybe it's time to retire. So that's where when people ask me, well, how many titles do you want? I won 11.
Wow.
I won 11. Yeah. But having said that, that is only if I can keep the mindset of why I want it. And I feel good physically and mentally, emotionally about continuing to compete. Again, you need to be very self-aware. If you don't feel good, if you're starting to wane in that fire, then you should be thinking about making an adjustment to do something else.
Yeah, because let's see, you're only 39, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's young. So you've already got 3. So let's see.
Yeah, 7 more at a minimum.
Maybe be 46 when you retired with 11, right?
I think that's a good age.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
I mean, I'm competing with girls who are in their 40s. I think Helle's 48. Irene's like in her 50s.
Yeah, I mean that's why there's the Masters Olympia next summer that Jake is holding over in Romania. There's only 3 divisions. Every division except for men's, women's bodybuilding, and 212 men's bodybuilding. You have to be 40 for the others, but for the bodybuilding division, you have to be 45 because I think it is.
Jake told me, he said, how old are you? And I said, well, I'll be 39. And he says, okay, because we can't have you competing in both. And I was like,
Would you have?
Absolutely.
Oh, really? Okay.
Absolutely. Hands down. Oh,
Okay.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh, God. Yeah. I would leave nothing on the table. That's why people ask me even about the Rising Phoenix, would you ever not do that show? No, no. If I'm competing, I'm doing that show and the Olympia. Always. And if Arnold brought it back, I'd be there.
yeah, I was gonna say, because Rising Phoenix makes sense. It's always like within a month, right? It's like usually 3 weeks before the Olympia.
Yep. So that's like, I call it the warm-up show, but it's a big deal. It's still an important show, but it gives me an idea, a really good idea of where I'm going to land when it comes time for the Olympia. So that show to me is just as important. It's a huge cash prize, and the vehicle. So, I give it a lot of effort. And again, 5 weeks in between the last one. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it gives me enough time to make certain adjustments if I need to, for the Olympia. So yeah, that show is a big deal. But yeah, if they ever bring it back to the Arnold, or if they adjust the age for the Masters,
man, yeah,
definitely.
What you were saying, we were talking about your competitors and how close they are to you. It reminded me of an old Ronnie Coleman interview where the reporter, it wasn't me, it was somebody else, said, Ronnie, who do you consider your closest competition? And you know what he said?
Me.
He said, all of them. That was very respectful of all the other guys. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I like that. Because he's right, though. I mean, again, you never know what someone else is doing. You never know what anybody else is working on. But if you don't sleep on anybody, you stay in a safe space.
I mean, think about it. There could be, you came up from figure. There could be somebody in like women's physique or figure now that a few years from now could be, well, let's let you win your 11 titles first. But there could be somebody that could be the next dominant Ms. Olympia champion.
You got it.
Still building her physique right now.
Yeah. Or there could be, I was that girl in 7th place. Remember when I first came into the Rising Phoenix? So all I had to do was get it here. Once I got it there and, sat down with both of my coaches and I said, okay, here's what I'm thinking. You tell me if you got something else in mind or if you're on board. And both of them said, oh, we think you can do it.
Yeah, I'm curious. Those first 2 shows, obviously second to Chicago, that was a huge sneak preview of what we had in store. But when you took 7th place at that first Rising Phoenix, were people telling you did you just need to make some adjustments? What was different then? Because that was the last time you got beat. So you got beat by 6 women there. So what improvements did you make from that show to 2020? Since no one's been near you since 2020.
Yeah, I just needed to really sharpen up all the details, top to bottom. That show, I was still so new to women's bodybuilding. I was very tired going into that show. I mean, I was still working a full-time job, 40-hour grind, plus still seeing clients outside of work. I mean, it was a lot, and I probably should have sat that show out, but I'm not one to back down when it comes time to perform. That's just it's not in my nature. So I did it, and I knew that I was tired, but I said I just wanted to see, where I fell. And I knew I wasn't going to win, but I had an idea that, I was going to walk away with some sort of knowledge about how to proceed for the next year. And yeah, I mean, I definitely knew that I needed to grow my legs. I needed to sharpen up, the details with my conditioning all over, because I knew I had the size, but I needed to just sharpen up.
Okay. Last question. The Olympia, you've won it in Orlando twice, in Las Vegas once now. Do you have a preference? It's going back to Orlando, but it's going to keep flip-flopping. Do you prefer one city over the other for the Olympia?
I prefer Orlando.
Okay.
I do. I prefer Orlando only because it was a little more comfortable. There was a lot going on at Planet Hollywood.
Yeah, it's a casino.
And I do enjoy the venue being kind of like the all-in-one. So I really did enjoy having, one place to go for the expo, one building to go back to for finals. But the Planet Hollywood Theater was amazing. So having said that, like I like this, if I could take the theater from the Zappos Theater at Planet Hollywood and take that to Orlando, perfect. But I mean, the other kind of flip thing is, I mean, things are open later in Vegas, so that was nice. True. I kind of have to be very careful with Orlando because things close early, and then like if you want to go out and eat afterwards, you better move quick. And sometimes, like I know after the show that doesn't move quick. So yeah, we only have a handful of places we can go, but Vegas was kind of wide open. But yeah, it was just a lot of moving around, and it was a little stressful trying to get like, timing down to get over to the expo to make sure.
Yes.
So I actually just sat and watched the show until it was time for me to go on. So, and that's not my custom. Normally I like to like really lay out, put my feet up, relax. Yeah. But you make adjustments.
There were some cool celebrities backstage. Did you get to meet anybody?
Nobody. Who came? Who came? Who did I miss?
I saw Chris. Well, Chris Angel came out. He gave a little talk. There was a lot of them like sports celebrities, and don't hate me, everybody, but I don't follow a lot of professional sports outside of this little world, so I couldn't tell you who they were. But,
don't feel bad, me either.
I want to say like Mark Wahlberg was back there.
Okay.
There's a couple.
I was hoping maybe Shaq would come, but I think maybe we got a better chance of seeing Shaq in Orlando.
Yes, he's always been there. I was surprised he wasn't there. He's always been at the Olympia the past like 4 or 5 years that I've been there.
Yeah.
And he's hard to miss.
And Dave Bautista, I know he's been a huge supporter of the Olympia. Yeah, I think when we go back to Orlando, we'll see more of those guys there. So
absolutely. Yeah. I met Bautista at Tampa Pro.
Yeah.
It was funny because I used to have that same little chin
strap the goatee.
So I said, and people used to ask me if I was Bautista, and I'm not even 5'8" anymore. And I'm like, you guys, I've met Dave. He's
tall.
The first time I met him, he was sitting down signing autographs, and he was the same height as me sitting down as I was standing up. So there you go. That's a tall dude, man.
But he's a huge supporter of bodybuilding. So, it's always great to see Dave.
Yeah. So you won't be competing again until the next fall. So as someone who loves competing and everything, well, you got stuff going on. You got the show promotion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're headed out to the LA Fit Expo. We've got the women's seminar in Arizona. We've got the Arnold Classic coming up. So I'll be there with Mutant. So that'll be fun. A couple posing clinics over in DC with Tony and his crew. So headed out to Weinberger's gym. I mean, the schedule is filling up really quick. I'm going to test judge again. I'm probably looking to go to the Pittsburgh Pro. Got to support Big Jim. Yep. North Americans. Yeah. I'll be back at Tampa. I love Tampa. Love Tampa. Yeah. I love Tampa.
That's a great show. I love that show. So you're on Instagram, not as Ms. It's MZ Pretty Muscle.
MZ.
Did somebody already take the MS? Like Ms. Pretty Muscle? Is that why you had to do that?
No, I just wanted to be different.
Well, you succeeded. It's actually easier to remember. MZ Pretty Muscle on Instagram, everybody. And I'm glad you still have a website, because there's not a lot of websites out there anymore.
Yes, even though it's going to be under construction soon, because we've got new pictures to post from the latest win.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, hopefully they catch it before that happens. MS OLYMPIA ANDREA SHAW.com. That's easy enough to remember.
Yeah.
Cool.
But if anyone has any issues with the website, just send us a message at the Contact Us page, and my admin staff will be sure to reply.
Cool. Do you do coaching online too, or no?
I do coaching in person. So no online yet. Most of my online coaching is strictly for posing, and I've limited my posing to just the women's physique, figure, and women's bodybuilding clients. So
I always say, stay in your lane, everybody.
That's it. That's it. I'm like, you know what? I mean, I appreciate wellness, and I love wellness and bikini, but I know what I've got experience in personally, and those three divisions are definitely something I've lived and experienced, so I'm comfortable with those.
Yeah, I mean that. I think that should give a perspective out there that you didn't start out in bodybuilding. You've worked your way up through many. This is your third division. You didn't even turn pro in women's bodybuilding.
Exactly.
I think that now you're the world champion for 3 years running in women's bodybuilding.
Yeah. But that goes to show you that's the beauty of the sport. When you get the right people, the right team, and the right plan, you can absolutely be successful in this sport.
Yeah, because 2018, you were still an amateur most of that year.
Yeah,
so you haven't even been a pro that long, really.
No, that's where people are like, "Wow, you even Hunter Labrada." He's like, "You won your very first Olympia." I said, "Yeah." He was like, "Oh gosh."
Well, when you're good, right?
You got the right team and the right plan. Yeah. It works. Nobody gets there by themselves.
Yeah, I always say when you put someone with awesome genetics and they have the brain and the heart, you can't beat that person. They're basically unbeatable.
Recipe for success. Recipe for success, my friend.
So congratulations on all your success so far. Wish you much more success. You've got all kinds of things going on, and you're juggling it all very well, it looks like. So keep on doing what you're doing, Andrea Shaw, Ms. Olympia 3 times.
Yeah. Thank you. And we'll take it next level.
Awesome.
We're already getting ready.
I wouldn't bet against you. Let's put it that way. So, would not bet
Smart
10
bet.
cents against you. No. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for watching Ronline Report with this woman, 3-time Ms. Olympia champion and Wings of Strength Rising Phoenix champion, Andrea Shaw. And we'll see you next time. Hey, did you like that video? Smash that like button, subscribe to MD, and please comment down below. Thanks for watching.